This week on MS Refresh, Matt and I are back to our respective coasts. Microsoft Scheduler leaves exclusive preview, and the Microsoft Stream web player gets an update, gets a delivery date for videos in SharePoint and OneDrive. All that and more. Subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hi there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 25 for the work week of June 14th, 2021. Coming from the west coast of the U.S., my name's Sean Bugler.
And coming to you still from the East Coast, my name is Matt Wade.
Matt, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
It's so strange to see you back in your little box.
I know. Yep. This is where I live. It's just within a TV screen kind of thing. But,
how are you feeling coming back from our first in-person conference in 16 months? Because the last time you and I saw each other in person was in February last year at the
San Francisco.
San Francisco SP TechCon.
Yep, exactly.
Where we delivered the cooks in the kitchen workshop that you.
Yeah. It was. I had a really good time. The weather was super hot, but like it could have been super hot and thundering every day. So I'm not going to complain too much. It was in person. It was not huge, but that wasn't a bad thing, I thought. I haven't been around that many people in a long time, especially the Orlando airport landing. I've been to Orlando a lot of times. I've never seen that airport as cramped as it was. And I was asking Courtney whether or not she thought, like, we're just out of practice and we don't know what it's like to be in a group of people, or is this really that big? And we agreed that no. There were just so many people in that airport. And of course, that was our introduction to Florida.
That. No kidding. The last time I was in Orlando was for Ignite in 2019. And of course that's my only frame of reference, so it was relatively light comparably, but it's good to be back. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it wasn't a ton of people there in person. I think they did a great job balancing the hybrid aspect of it. Agreed. But I do think that, I was grateful that it was kind of an easing in. It was a lukewarm hot tub after a very cold shower.
Definitely. And then I think that's a good transition to December, when they're going to be in person in Vegas again and be the real Microsoft 365 collab, formerly SharePoint conference.
We've gotten a lot of people asking if we're going to be there at that one. TBD. We will, of course. You
that's the hope.
Our fans will be the first to know. Matt, did you get any people telling you that they enjoyed the MS Refresh show while you were there?
I don't know if anybody actually walked up and said anything. Why did you? I
did. I had in my workshop. I had a gentleman. Of course, the conversation was around building your Microsoft 365 training program, and as a part of that, we we bounce off each other around what resources we as admins and people within our organizations use to stay on top of these things. And somebody gave us a plug for the show. Of course, I don't try to bring it in myself, but since it was brought up,
I'm with you.
That was kind of nice.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been just floored. Like, I was at a conference, I think it was SharePoint Fest, and one of the other speakers, a good friend of mine, pointed to somebody else, like at one of those standing tables in like a shared space. And I'm like, what are you pointing at? Well, the guy was on my blog. Of course, I didn't even notice, but you could see his laptop and he was reading one of my articles. I'm like, whoa, that stuff's those numbers in Google Analytics are actually like real.
They're real people. They're not just bots clicking on links.
Yeah, really, exactly. Not that I won't take the bots clicking either, too, just to inflate the ego. But yeah.
It is a nice reminder that there are people on the other side of this. And of course, us going live and taking these questions, which for those of you who are watching live right now, know that you can submit comments or questions. We'll be fielding those towards the end of this as well. It's nice. It's a good reminder.
I'll just toss that comment into the chat right now just to let everybody remind them that they can do that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I think it's probably time to jump right into the news. How's that sound?
I think that sounds wonderful. Let's do it.
All right.
This is the news.
Oh no, I picked the wrong side. Turns out I picked the blue side. There we go. So much better. Microsoft Scheduler, or Cortana, a service previously known as Calendar.help, is graduating from exclusive preview to actual product. For those unfamiliar, the service, which has been around for at least 3 years, allows you to CC Cortana in an email to request assistance scheduling meetings. With internal colleagues where calendar availability is known, Cortana can run with the request and book the meeting. With external contacts, where of course they won't have access to that calendar availability, Cortana will act as the interface, fielding back and forth emails needed to lock in a meeting based on your availability. Think of it as an AI alternative to Microsoft Find Time if you're familiar with that, albeit without voting and unproven utility in group settings as well. Unfortunately, with its official rollout, it suddenly costs monies, with Microsoft aiming to collect $10 per user per month, which seems like a lot, candidly. We'll see if it gains any traction or inevitably gets folded into another product line. Oh, it would help if I had the right one there. Falling apart at the seams, Matt. Teams channel meeting recordings will soon offer the ability to allow not downloading, with an exception for team and channel owners. They'll be saved in a new folder called Recordings View Only, coming in July. The updated web player experience for video... The updated web player experience for video in SharePoint and OneDrive is due in September. This is the modern Stream web app they've been talking about for quite a bit over the past few months. It's nice to finally see a date on it. The classic Stream app, while not formally announced for retirement, is likely to come next year. Planner is finally getting recurring tasks, one of the most requested and sought after features missing from the project management platform. So soon you'll be able to set a task to automatically reset after completion to a future date. A quality of life update, to be sure, but a welcome one for our friends in the government clouds. Coming later this month, relatively hot on the heels of its commercial appearance back in October 2020, GCC and GCC High tenants will soon see suggested translation options for emails received in another language. Alternatively, written emails can also be translated into alternative languages prior to sending. Sticking with GCC for just a moment more, GCC High and DoD Teams users will soon get large meeting and chat support up to 1,000 participants coming in July, and GCC High is also picking up the presenter role coming in June. Now that Teams webinars are out, a marquee feature... Oh, these are wildly out of order. Now that Teams webinars are out, a marquee feature highlighted during Ignite earlier this year, integration with Dynamics 365 Marketing, is on the way, coming this month. This will allow you to follow up with registrants automatically using mass emails and lead generation, among other opportunities. Lastly, coming in July, tenants will pick up the ability to apply a standard retention policy to a private channel in Microsoft Teams. Right now, those policies can only be applied to standard channels. This applies to the conversations in the channel. Files, of course, are still maintained and retained based on SharePoint retention policies. Back to you, Matt.
That was the news.
All right, let's switch to the right side there and hit that up. Cool. All right, so that was fun.
That was a roller coaster. I'll tell you what, we take one break from doing it live.
I know.
And completely fall apart at the seams.
I know. And I don't know about you, but like I had taken all my camera gear and stuff with me to the conference, and of course the moment you try to plug it back in, nothing works in the actual setup, and God. Anyway,
it's a refreshing and humbling opportunity to remind ourselves that we're always growing.
That is true. So thank you, Sean, very much for the update on the news. I'm curious to know, what is one of the topics that popped out for you this week?
It's a small one, sort of, but I continue to be really excited about and interested in this migration from Stream Classic to New Stream.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think that almost from the get-go, it seemed like Microsoft realized they had gone in the wrong direction, or had gone rather in a direction that they didn't want to go any further, that keeping Stream as a file platform unto itself, separate from SharePoint and OneDrive, just didn't make a ton of sense. So it's been interesting to see how they've managed to pivot that, and of course hold on to the Stream name as opposed to going the Google route and just giving it a whole new name, making this like their messaging strategy, but for videos.
Yeah, I think this change this is sort of the modern, or the new Stream experience change that is required before we could ever really say we're in the new Stream. And in just having discussed a little bit about this with some people who are, video portal and videographer, experts and professionals on this stuff, this is a turning upside down of the concept of like, well, I have one dedicated video portal and that's just where people upload stuff, right? Which is what Stream Classic is. It's a video portal. You have those channels and groups and, no playlists. That was the one thing that always blew my mind. But that kind of stuff being available. And the question I got from a couple people that I've been working with recently was basically, where are the portals? Where do I put a portal? Like, how do I make a portal? Because when you go to Stream now, it's not going to be a Stream portal. It's going to look just like if you went to the Excel homepage in the browser,
right,
where here's a list of
where it's just this simple landing page.
And the concept of, just use the Stream, web part or the file viewer web part or whatever they're going to be pushing in SharePoint. Use SharePoint as your video portal and create as many as you want, and you can use hub sites and you can bubble things up and blah 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 blah. New concept for a lot of people who have worked in the videography field, which could very well push people off of Stream and into another service. But the one sort of caveat I give people is be careful if you try to do that, because Microsoft's going to use Stream regardless of whether you care or not.
100%. I mean, recordings are already being funneled into Stream. Any file videos that you're uploading into SharePoint and OneDrive are going to use that Stream UI. So, I mean, whether you're deliberately using it or not is irrelevant. You're using Stream, unless you're in, of course, GCC or GCC high DoD, which case TBD.
Yeah, I'm still curious to see what happens with respect to transcription. So you can still, download a meeting recording, download the transcript, and upload it into Stream Classic and put them together, and that's how you get the, person identified kind of thing. I'm still not entirely sure. I've tried to do some reading on this, and granted, it's not like I deep dive fully, but I'm still not sure how those two things are going to align, completely. But I know that there's a few folks on the Stream team that are trying to keep, public face and whatnot. So I may have to reach out to them, because those transcripts are useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think accessibility is at the heart and soul of a lot of what Microsoft says they're about. So it would be crazy for them, I think, not to take all this time that they already are. And I'll run through the roadmap in just a split second, and not have that consideration built in for all videos, not just meeting transcripts.
Yeah, definitely.
So just as a quick run through of where we're at in terms of the timeline, Q3 2021 is when we've already cut over to, at least in the commercial space, new meeting recordings, OneDrive and SharePoint are optionally available. There was an opt-out period, and you can still technically opt out. But as of Q3 of this year, it's going to become mandatory for all new meetings to be saved to OneDrive and SharePoint, depending on who scheduled the meeting. Also in Q3 2021, the new Stream web app based on the office.com becomes an opt-in. That's also when the Stream Classic migration preview tool becomes available, where you can start to move stuff over, because a lot of people aren't thinking about this. You are going to need to take all the videos that are on there. I mean, this is Office 365 video all over again.
Yeah.
And move it all over.
Well, have they even actually called end of life on O365 video yet? Doesn't that still exist if people were using it?
So I believe in all tenants, one that were created, I think within about a year ago, or organizations that have already flipped the switch, it's gone away. Government tenants, of course, still have it, and likely will for the foreseeable future.
Gotcha.
And then the last thing that I'll go ahead and flag here, because of course there's always concern about how quickly are they going to hit the gas on this. Microsoft hasn't announced a retirement date for Stream Classic, but they have said that once they get to a point where they're comfortable with it, Stream Classic will be fully retired 9 to 12 months after the retirement date is announced, whenever that happens to be. So if they announce it today, which they won't, it would be 9 to 12 months from that day. So we've got some breathing room, but it is something that everybody should be paying attention to, particularly given the implications with things like the Viva platform, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And then video is, the heart of learning, right? So like Viva Learning, things like that are going to be a big deal.
Absolutely. So what about you? What caught your attention?
All right, so the one that popped out for me was the Microsoft Scheduler / Cortana / calendar.help / it's got way too many names. Finally going out from being an exclusive preview for free for, I think you said for 3 years. I didn't even know it had been there for that long.
I forget who it was that announced it, but I was at some small side conference, and it was one of the product team owners was out here in San Francisco giving a talk about it, and he had the secret code like Cupcake or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I've been using it for 3 years off and on. I mean, I stopped using it about a year ago because the utility in multi-user scenarios was bleh. But yeah,
Fair.
so there's some working familiarity with it already.
I've definitely used it before, and I don't believe that I required any sort of actual like invitation or anything. I think it was just available.
Bear in mind, of course, that this is an
a
MVP
while.
talking.
Yeah. No. There was no extra like, aspect or access or anything like that. I don't think.
I do know that at a certain point you just had to know to go to like calendar.help.
Yes, you had to you had to take the action to go there, and then like I don't know if you had to install it or if I don't think
it was a plugin. You like clicked in it and you
exactly.
into it.
Yeah, so this one is interesting to me because I really like the concept of just meetings in general. And like the biggest question, for anybody that works with external people, which is almost everybody, is how the hell do you deal with the, so Cal Newport called it in his World Without Email, the email ping pong back and forth that comes to, I need to schedule something. And he actually, one of his recommendations was to use like Calendly or, some other similar service, or just pay for a virtual assistant through like, Fiverr or something, which is just like, amazing to me that was his solution, was it's worth the money for you to pay for yourself to have somebody that has access to your account. Like what? But yeah, so this is essentially supposed to be an AI service where the new version, this now, fully vetted version is going to be, you can turn it on in your tenant. You can actually you have to create a service account for this account, and you can call it whatever you'd like. It could be, Magic Scheduler at company.com or don't bother me at company.com, who knows? And then it will do the back and forth. So if I CC this Cortana tool and send out to 5 people or whatever and say, hey, Cortana, and mention it in the email, find a time for me to meet with these people for 45 minutes sometime next week in the morning, whatever, in natural language. And Cortana will pull that out and then basically forgive you from having or excuse you from having to do the email back and forth, but everybody else will still have to do the email back and forth. If it's internal or a few people are internal, it will have access to their schedules. So it will know that those people are available at whatever times. And basically it just sends out a message to the externals and say, hey, can you guys do, date 1, time 1, date 2, time 2, whatever. And it gives a few options for that. It's really cool. I can't deny that. I'm very much a find time preferer, I guess, in this one. I like the graphical experience better and being able to vote and show a preference and that kind of thing. This one, if you're going to do it, you're going to have to really teach people a few key things. One's going to be start and end times of the day, working day for people. If that's not there, it will probably, I don't know if it's probably not going to do, any time of the day whatsoever.
It's going to default to the organizational default, which is usually 8 to 5.
Right, but that has no bearing necessarily anymore on people's actual work times any longer.
Correct.
And like if you have anything else on your calendar, like maybe a doctor's appointment or you're having lunch with somebody and you keep that on your like personal calendar and not your work calendar, it doesn't know that. So you need to absolutely use your calendar 100% correctly for it to know what times are available and what aren't. For me, like I like to, like if I have an appointment, like a doctor's appointment, it's at 1. It's nice now that like, my iPhone can tell me it's time to leave, but there's no calendar out there at this point that says like, hey, it's 20 minutes between where you normally work and that appointment.
And nothing intelligently like block that off.
Block out that time. So even those situations you really have to be smart about. So, because it will maliciously comply to your request and move forward that way. And of course, this $10 a month per user thingy, I mean, I was just double checking. Power Automate's 15. Like imagine being able to
compare it against how much it costs for an Office 365 or a Microsoft 365 license, like E3.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
You're talking about like 30% of the value of that is just not having to email, and you're only saving you that time. There's still 4 other people that are in this black hole having to deal with now a robot.
Exactly. And of course, to me, it's impersonal. It's like, I don't have the time to deal with you, so you can talk to this little AI thing anyway.
And I love this argument, because it was like giving people a Calendly link. Like that was the original debate is giving somebody a scheduling link too impersonal? Is it too like hands-off-ish? This is so much worse.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And like Calendly, I like that because then I can look at it and say, it's a graphical experience. I can say, okay, does this match up with my calendar, blah, blah, blah. And I just feel like I'm in control as the person scheduling the time. And I'm fine with that. But I'm going to be getting pre-written words from an AI bot that the person who runs it couldn't be bothered to spend the time to figure it out with me, or just pick up the phone and say, hey, what about Tuesday next week? Like that kind of thing, which I realized as time goes on, we hate the phone more and more. But I don't know. It's an interesting, it'll be interesting to see. It's cool tech.
Failing once, you'd never use it again.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like you're absolutely right about that.
The margin of error for technology like this, especially when you think about like you're dealing with not people within your organization, you're dealing with people outside the organization.
Right.
You're already putting that foot out there and saying like, I don't want to talk to you, and you figure it out with my virtual assistant. But now you're saying, God forbid it doesn't work. I'm like, hey, I made you go through all of that, and also we need to fix this now.
Yep. No, that's true. And I think somebody in here said, yeah, here we go. I could see the Cortana meeting booking thing being used by leaders that don't have a personal assistant currently, which I think that's a fair comment. I could see companies saying, "Ooh, this is a great way to,"
and that's clearly where Microsoft is positioning it. That there's no other way to look at that pricing except, hey, it's 30% cheaper than licensing a person to do this.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
That's the only way I can see like $10 a month.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. So yeah, that was the interesting one for me, definitely, and. I guess we'll see what happens, and I'm kind of curious to hear from those folks if we ever get a hold of them, like who's paying for this and who justified $10 a month per user per month. That seems just crazy to me, but that's just me, I guess. And I'm not the budget guy at work. But you want to take on some questions here? There's some really good ones that are a little bit off from what we talked about, but definitely worth chatting about.
I thought it was interesting. I was trying not to get too distracted with the questions, but it was interesting to see. I think this one caught my attention. What's the deal with meeting recordings going to OneDrive? So they are meeting recordings right now. We're in an opt-out period, so organizations will have already, unless your organization's opted out, will already be stored in whomever scheduled the meetings OneDrive. It's going to go into a folder called meeting recordings, and they can share it from there. Of course, the logic behind there is, of course, now it's subject to retention schedules and things like that, but also that you'll be able to share it externally, which is something that historically has been a bit of a pain point. So right now, if your organization's already opted out, you are continuing to have those recordings stored wherever they've been before. And then in Q3 later this year, then it's going to be a hard cutover and everything's going to go into OneDrive or SharePoint if a group owns the meeting.
Yes, I think it really just comes down to it's always in OneDrive, unless it's a channel meeting. That's the only real exception.
Exactly right.
The important part about the OneDrive thing is it's not about the ownership of the file, is about who presses the record button, which I think is a big deal. That as the organizer, somebody else can press the record button and take ownership of that recording, and I don't own it at that point. Now I have access to it because as an organizer, it will automatically be shared with me. But I don't know that
it's controversial.
Yeah, it's Microsoft dumping things into OneDrive whenever they had no other place to put things. But like in this case, it's like, yeah, but that OneDrive is not accessible to me, so I can't. It's
either that or Exchange. You take your pick.
It's true. Yeah, no. I guess that's true. All right, so here's another one that popped up, which was productivity in M365, and basically, List seems like a great issue or a great resource or tool for dealing with an issue tracking or stakeholder contact list, whatnot. But are Microsoft building out lists, or is it going to fade away?
Boy, the $1 million question.
I mean, the short answer to that is it ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
Because it's just a SharePoint list, but rebranded, made a little prettier to compete with, bigger competitor, not bigger, but other competitors out there like Monday.com or Airtable, Asana, exactly. So you can feel safe, I think, in building on Microsoft lists. There's still SharePoint lists, so you still have 5,000 item limit out there, just kind of rearing its ugly head, but definitely worth jumping into that.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. In fact, just hit the message center, I believe, this morning that and who among us doesn't have an extra 2 to 3 hours? But I was going to say is it just hit the message center earlier today, I believe, that what did they call it? Nebula or Newton or whatever that weird branding they're putting out there for offline lists.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
So lists being available as a progressive web app, that is coming very, very soon. And as a part of that, that lists are going to be available offline, that they can be cached, and that's going to help speed them up both when you're connected to the internet and allow you to keep working when you're not, which is going to be big.
Yeah, that cache is going to be a big deal, actually, now that you say that.
Let's see. Oh, I like this one here. So, of course, we were talking earlier about this idea of, as we move to the modern stream experience and move away from Stream Classic and this idea of portals, SharePoint is going to kind of fill the void of creating those curated video experiences. So what might that look like? I think Alex has a really great idea here, which is, you upload all those videos to a SharePoint folder, create the page, and use the highlighted content web part to surface videos by property. But this is also how you could go about creating playlists. So there's some opportunities there.
Yeah,
so that's a really
I think the file viewer is going to be a big deal too, because I don't know if the highlighted content actually lets you play in context. I think it's just going to open it up elsewhere. But the file viewer definitely lets you use it. There is a stream web part, which I believe is going to be retired. I could be totally wrong on that one. I'm just assuming.
I think there's a new one coming.
Is there? Okay, so that would be good.
It's just a video web part, though.
That would be good, yeah. And like if you look at the lookbook, the SharePoint lookbook, it has a number of examples where there's videos on there, and I've kind of been using that as guidance with people that I've been working with lately to say, like, these are things that you can be doing once the full stream experience is out and ready to go. You don't have to just have a video portal. You can have a page that has a ton of videos on it, but other content, and be primarily video or surface video in the organization, which actually I think that's good. It gives people a lot more freedom, and there is no more of this, like, you're either in the video tool or you're in the intranet tool, and those two things really shouldn't be different. I think it just comes down to as an intranet guy, like, at first I was like, this seems weird. Why would I ever want that stuff in my system? And then from the video people's perspective, I think they're looking at it from like, but I need to manage a video portal. And it's like, no, we have to come together and, kumbaya and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. When you look at it through the lens of Microsoft using SharePoint as the platform for files, period.
Yeah.
That's, there was one I wanted to pull up here. This was an interesting framing of lists as kind of the weird in between for Microsoft Planner and Microsoft Project. I don't necessarily know that I agree with it, but I understand the framing, which is lists are so flexible. They could be the in-between for Planner and Project. You've got Planner, which is this rigid, bucketing system. You've got Project, which is this wide open expanse of, just robust functionality. Yeah. And then you've got lists, which, can be as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but especially with view formatting, which is becoming easier and easier to do, it can be a little bit of everything. Lists are getting calendar view formatting or views in a couple of weeks.
I think we already have it. I think I have it in my government.
Spoilers. I think it is rolling out. No, I think you're right. I think it's rolling out. But yeah, so I mean, it could be, but I think what's great about lists is that it's a little bit of everything to everyone, which is why companies like Asana and Monday.com and even Notion have been so successful, is that malleability.
Yeah. And like, to their credit, like, they do their thing really well, and they're small startups and they're scrappy and they're going to put in a ton of features. And like, I don't think Microsoft ever is going to compete. I think there was probably some frustration on the MS side where it's like, all these things are popping up, these list apps out there. And like, we've had SharePoint lists for years. What the heck? How come nobody is like, singing our praises? And I think it's because like it's kind of like giving somebody here's an easel and a canvas and some paint. Now go make something beautiful. And like, very few people can do that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where those templates in Microsoft lists really help out, because they actually show people, this is what you can do with this thing. It's really not that hard, but there was no, super easy entry point prior. That being said, there's still a bunch of features that just aren't going to be there that, are definitely in those other tools. A lot of those other tools, for example, do have Gantt. To see that definitely not in Planner. And I think in lists, you can sort of weasel it maybe a little bit.
It comes right back to view formatting. You can do it in theory.
Exactly.
It's just, you're going to get a little creative with it.
Yeah, you kind of have to build your own Gantt chart, basically, which, so be it. But and if you want to know anything more about Gantt charts, you can look at last week's episode. But yeah.
I enjoyed the conversation that was happening here during the live episode. This is always my favorite part.
Yeah. No, this is a lot of fun. So yeah, I don't have anything else for today, Sean. Do you have anything before we'd like to close out?
No, nothing on my part. It's always good to see you, of course. It was great to see you in person, and I'm looking forward to the next time around. And of course, for those of you who, for a myriad reasons, weren't able to make it out either virtually or in person to the conference, the seal's broken. We'll be out and about. We'll be keeping you posted on all of that here, and we look forward to seeing all of you in the near future as well.
Yeah, nope, I agree. Perfect. Well, I think that about does it. So to everybody watching, and for those of you that see this after the live session, thanks so much. As always, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Leave a comment below. In addition to the live comments, we can also still do the regular comments. And Sean, good seeing you last week, and I hope to see you again next week.
Thanks, man.